right, hey everyone, welcome back to the Rally Report. What a fucking whirlwind of a couple days it has been. I mean, at this point, I might be the last one reporting on the Farag news. But man, the shock is still here. It's very much so still here. And on top of that, let's not forget about the Sarah Jane Perry sneaking her retirement as well. And to start this off, a couple words about SJ, as I hope her retirement news doesn't get buried under Farag's. I truly hope she gets the love she deserves because, man, what a player. The racket skill ability, the swing, the deception was just world-class, and the creativity she brought to combat her movement, I do think brought a breath of fresh air to the game. And the women's game has been so top-heavy in a period where, in the period she was in, but she was able to, kind of crack a major win. She was one of very few to be able to do that in the Black Ball Open in 2020, when the draw featured the likes of El Shorbagy, Gohar, Hamami, Sobi, Joel King, Camille Serm. So big shout out to her for such a wonderful, wonderful career. And now regarding Ali Farag, so much has already been said about Farag, and I don't think I need to say much to capture how he's impacted the squash community. But simply put, it is devastating news. We all know he's not one to be the center of attention and make a meal out of it, but I wish we could have given him a proper send-off at a big event, which as a fan would be my biggest disappointment of how quick and suddenly this retirement was announced. But still, it's truly telling to see the outpouring messages and tributes on him. Not going to dive too much into it as I break it down with Johnny throughout today's episode. But man, there really aren't enough words to describe what Farag has done to the game, the way he's conducted himself, and what he has accomplished throughout his career. And boy, is this not the ultimate wake-up call. I think we've all kind of just been jumping at the excitement of the Olympics news and forgot about how the older generation of players have been carrying the torch on the men's side in particular, and they might not even be featured in the Olympics. And it's a realization that these legends of the sports are not going to be here forever. And as a fan, let's just hope the young players can answer to the call and step up and show the level of squash these older guys have been carrying for such a long time. But listen, I'm excited for what's to come, and here's the breakdown for today's episode. Whole ton of things we cover from the Ali Farag's retirement and what it means for the men's tour, and quick recap on the World Champs, which now seems ages ago, and also the British Open, which has now been blown wide open with so many people being injured and out from it. So, of course, doing this with none other than Johnny Williams, everyone. All right. Well, welcome back, Johnny. Back-to-back episodes on the Rally Report. The feedback from the World Champs episode I was just mentioning to you was just too good. So just had to have you back on. But Johnny, what a couple of weeks it's been. I just can't keep up right now with what's happening in the squash world. I don't even know where to start here, but I guess we got to start with the retirement and how you've taken the news.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive roller coaster, isn't it? Because obviously Mustafa is just been on a blasting mission. Just absolutely, went through, didn't drop a game, including against the main man Ali, and it's really been. It started to become about Ali and Mustafa, and I think that in terms of the retirement news, it was for many like myself, the purists, the ones who are getting geared up for that Mustafa Ali sort of rivalry to start really getting into gear. Ali, obviously for reasons that purely tied into himself and what he wants for himself in his own life, he decides to pull the pin and sort of say, I'm done. I've done everything I want to do, which is totally understandable. But yeah, as a purist, it's like definitely it was a shock because obviously I believe that Farag is absolutely at the peak of his power still. He's not dropping off when he retires. He's retiring at the very top. And Mustafa was, he was providing a different type of challenge that perhaps Ali had never seen before. And in particular, when you look at the World Champs, just the court they played on, the conditions, it was as tough as it gets, because, Joey at one stage said that Mustafa will want to pack that court up, put it in his bag and take it home with him. That's how suited it was for him. But look, it was definitely a shock because I felt like, I think, looking at the way Ali has been playing and how consistent he is, he definitely had another, 2 or 3 years. I say 2 years, definitely playing around that level and challenging for world titles and everything.
One of the questions I had was, do we think that do you even sense remote drop off in Farag's form that could have led to him deciding to hang it up earlier than intended. But you already answered there that you still thought he was at the top of his game. I mean, it's so rare to see athletes who are at the top of their games to step away from the game. And I was kind of looking it up as earlier examples if this has happened historically. And we saw it with MJ in 1993, and we saw it more recently with Ashley Barty in tennis, who suddenly announced her retirement. But really a huge shock to the world. I guess the big question I have for you is, what does this mean for the men's tour? Is the men's tour in shambles now without him on the top, without someone being able to consistently challenge Asal at the top of the game? Is this just going to be an Asal show for the next couple of years now? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a fair statement that you're making, and it's a really good question because a lot of squash people who have played a high level, they played maybe ex-pro or they're certainly friends in my circles. That's a little bit the reverberation, that I get from them is like Mustafa and Ali were pushing the bar higher and higher. Diego certainly was definitely there last year, but he's had his injury problems that we know about now, and he's sort of fallen off the wagon a little bit. He needs to get back on. So definitely one part of the answer is, if Diego gets firing again, Diego's definitely a guy that can absolutely compete with Mustafa because he's a big guy, he's unbelievable talent, and it's more a question of him knuckling down and doing the really hard work consistently that he needs to do. Then, of course, we've got Paul and Joel now that moved to 3 and 4, and they're not going to, in terms of the way that they go about their business, knowing Joel obviously a bit more personally as well and having that contact with him, he will definitely see this as opportunity. Farag was one of the biggest troublemakers in terms of trying to progress and move up those rankings. But yeah, he definitely, on one hand, he will miss the challenge because Farag asked so many different questions of him and the way that he played that he has been going away specifically often just trying to answer the problems that Farag was throwing out there to improve himself. So that sort of obviously finishes that element of things, but it won't stop the drive and ambition to keep moving up now from 4 to 3 to 2 and hopefully all the way, but I think in terms of like, is it a gaping hole that he leaves, which you can't really fill? Well, of course, because he transcended the sport, and that's a lot. When you look at all the messages going out from various people, that's the sort of big vibe that I get all the time, is just this transcendence, as if he was almost like some kind of demigod, the way he sort of floated through the court, the way he carried himself, compared to Federer in terms of the presentation, the ambassadorial role that he had, and all that sort of thing. So you can't replace a guy like that. You will miss him. Time heals all wounds, so in time we'll get over it. But yeah, hopefully there will be some young bloods coming through, a Jonah Bryan, a Zachariah. But it's a long. After those two, I'm sort of looking at deeper down the tour and sort of ask myself, where is the potentially the next group of players coming that are going to be not just Ali Farag, but Tarek Momin and Gawad and their Shorbagy's, Mustafa. Where are the next group of players that are going to fill those roles to give us that kind of squash that we've seen the last 10, 15 years,
Yeah, I mean, one thing I wanted to touch on was you want players at the top of their game, at the pinnacle of the game, to be able to push each other. And do you think this might be an overstatement here, but do you think this is going to stunt Asal's growth? That he's not going to have the consistent challenge that Farag was bringing to the table, and they're going to be answering questions that they were being thrown at? Or do you think there's enough talent in the top of the game with Elias and Cole and Macon to be able to trouble Asal, for Asal to continue growing as a player himself as well?
I think that as long as Asal, at the moment, I feel like as long as Asal continues the relationship with James Willstrop, he's going to be in really good hands, because if we just look at what Willstrop has done, how he's turned the ship around, and even for all of the, there was a fair bit of commentary flying around, as we know, about stuff that was happening the last few months. But to be fair to Mustafa, he obviously he absolutely carved through the draw at the World Champs, didn't drop a game. There was the odd incident here and there, but overall, you would have to say, well, he's a big guy. There's going to be some clashes and stuff like that. But there was, if I sort of recall one incident, there was when he played Yao, there was a couple of strokes that went against him. I thought the refs handled it in the right way, but he was just far too good anyway. So it never really got to a stage where that side of things got tested. But yeah, I mean, as long as Diego is fit and healthy, as long as Paul and Joel continue to evolve themselves as they've tried to do the last many, many years, then I think heading in with the carrot of the Olympics dangling there in 2028, I don't think we got too many worries in terms of players dropping off or Mustafa not having enough competition. I think that, of course, Farag is a loss, but I don't think it's going to affect the mindset of the others. Like, they will just keep driving forward at 100 miles an hour to become a better version of themselves,
Yeah. Now, one more thing I was thinking about as soon as this got announced actually was Mohamed El Shorbagy. I just was curious, what do you think? It's always funny to see when such a great of the sport leaves and you have another great in the sport. It must leave a gaping hole, especially with competition and drive to see other old players to continue elevating their games. Do you think this has, I mean, I'm sure this has impacted Shorbagy in a certain way, but do you think this might make his retirement come earlier than intended?
Yeah, I mean, Mohammed's probably looking at it going like, it's like, I'm the more senior one here. You can't retire before me. That's my job to do that before you do. So that's certainly the shock element there for him. I would hazard a guess that he might have had a little bit of inside intel before we did as well, because they do have such a good relationship, and they both, Farag and El Shorbagy has now said as well, like, that's been his biggest rival of his career. I mean, earlier it was Rummy, but then Rummy's career got cut short, and then it became Farag, and that rivalry with Farag has been at the top of the game right up until even TOC this year, where they play that unbelievable match where Shorbagy nearly gets the job done there against all odds, So I think Mohammed, anyway, without knowing anything, that's just put my own personal opinion. I think he's got 12, 18 months tops left. I just can't see him going on after that. I might be wrong, but that's my educated guess.
Would you have said the same if the Farag retirement wasn't announced?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. I think that, there's residual wear and tear that it's starting to show up even in the match against Steinman. If we look at that, how he had to absolutely get the battle axe out to grind his way through that and win 3-2. And then he had a day off, but he didn't have anything in the tank against Cole. Like, Cole was able to put him away, it has to be said, relatively comfortably, by just one game was a bit close, but then it ran away quickly in the third. It was just a question of Paul getting positions, using his quick drops, using his speed, that repeat speed, and it was pretty much lights out. So I think that Mohammed deep down will know himself, like, he's given it everything. He's absolutely emptied his body into that squash court. So you've only got so much mileage, and then you have to sort of see that your time's up,
Yeah.
And Tarak's the other one. I think that Tarak must be getting close, mate.
I mean, not with the way he's playing, not with the way he's been
Yeah.
showing us off here.
Yeah, but he pulled, like, I found just when players start pulling, like Tarak's pulled out of the British Open. So when we get to the British Open, that's this British Open is as wide open as any British Open has been for a long time, because of the withdrawal of Farag, Tarak Momin, loads of other players through various things just sort of dropping out. Cardenas. In the women's, we've got Hania dropping out. So there's never been a British Open where so many big guns have just had to pull out for whatever reason. And it gives players lower down who already would, because the tournament's running, and if we look at some of the first rounds that are on tomorrow and the next day, there's just massive opportunity there for players to get to second round and get really good points.
Johnny, is this concerning? Is this concerning with the PSA scheduling and also with the World Champs? We saw so many unfortunate injuries happen. I've never seen that many injuries happen within the tournament. It's major, minor ones, whether it be concussions, whether it be major injuries. And on top of how close one of the biggest two events of the calendar. I don't think that'd be an overstatement there with the British Open and World Championships, with how they spread these out. Do you think with the pullouts of the British Open as well, is this a bit of a concerning with how they're scheduling this and the wear and tear it's providing for players? And as viewers, you want to get the best out of these players. You want them to be in the best shape possible. Is that something that needs to be addressed, or is it just probably an outlier of this year?
Yeah, I think that LNN, if we look at the injuries, LNN and Al Arabi, they're outlier events. Like these players are relatively young. I don't think it's due to the scheduling that they got injured. It's just there was just an odd sort of thing that happened with Al Arabi. But yeah, your question is valid. There's no doubt about it. And I sort of saw something out there where Gelly Lane had a pod with some guy from the US college circuit there, and that's it. Yeah, exactly. And it's a valid discussion. There's no doubt about it, because just purely on the basis of the number of platinum and golds that have been squeezed into the last 2 months, you do have to sort of ask yourself, is it wise to be pushing players and asking that much of them? Because I don't know how any player can get up for all those events and perform like week in, week out. If you look at, if I start at sort of early April, we've had Optasia, we had Alguna, then we had Grasshopper, then we had the World Champs, we had Palm Hills, and now we have the British, and then the World Tour Finals to top it off. So that is just an enormous demand on the top 10, especially the top 10, top 16. And at the end of the day, they're our flag bearers. They're the ones that the game is being sold on, and that's where all the big matches are being played. That's the one that's going to pull the most viewership into squash TV, into broadcast TV, and stuff like that. That's where all the stories and where the big narratives are. So I do feel that it's important that PSA tries to find a way with the tournament promoters to make sure that the spacing is giving the players the right amount of time so that they can deliver and perform at the level that we want to see as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Palm Hills, if you look, say, Palm Hills being squeezed in between the Worlds and the British at the back end of everything I just said. I mean, obviously, working for PSA, I've got to be careful I don't shoot myself in the foot. but working for PSA, I'm happy that I got to spend a week on comms, in Cairo with Parky and really enjoyed it. But yeah, it definitely was for me noticeable that first of all, you didn't have too many foreigners going out there for a gold event, and secondly, players are definitely at the back end of the season and feeling the pinch without a doubt. What I did like is now that you said it, because it sort of ran through my mind. I did like very much the idea that Jackson spoke about, that PSA really should start to think about, for me also, having slams in squash. So off the top of my head, I was like, the World Champs is on its own. It's the premier event of the year, but it's considered one of the slams. And then, for example, you could have the British. You could have TOC. TOC is an event for me that has so much history and legacy attached to it. It would be deserving of that status as well. And then another event somewhere else. That could be in Egypt. Obviously, Egypt would be an obvious place. But there should be the World Champs plus 3 slams. And with this diamond, the new diamond status, hopefully maybe that's what that will lead to as well.
Yeah, personally, I think that the Diamond Project hasn't been the most successful in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. I don't work for PSA, so I probably am okay saying that, but we won't let Johnny answer that question. I think the one last thing I wanted to talk about with the Farag retirement, I think there has been a lot of flowers being given to him over these past couple of days. So I think that's been done enough and done gracefully and done fantastically well. But one thing I think it's a reminder of, which I don't want to harp on this issue too much, but is, again, one of the issues with the men's tour. I kind of just went ahead and looked up the ages of the top 10. And I'm curious, you've been in the game much longer than I have. And I don't know if this is just this generation thing or if this has always been the consistent way it's been, but especially in the men's game, we see the age of the top 10. We see Diego Elias, 28, not too old, but Paul Cole, 33, Joel Macon, 30, Marwan, 31, Mohamed El Shorbagy being 34, Momin, 37, Gawad, 33. They kind of round out the top 9, top 10 there. Why are we not seeing that many young players being able to crack into that top 10 that are much younger? Is it just takes time? Is it always been this way? I mean, if you look at the women's tour, it's a lot more balanced in terms of age. But in that sense, it is a bit concerning, I think. but wanted to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I found that also. Though it's something that sort of struck me the last t- uh, certainly over the last 2 years. Where are those youngsters coming through? So for me, clearly, Jonah Bryant is a player that is showing a lot of dynamic pace and skill, and you can see where that development's going to go. So he will, for me, he will slot into that role into the top 10, and obviously with his obviously his ambition is to be the best he can be, and perhaps be a world champion, be world number one, and the UK or England would absolutely love that. His coach, Robert Owen, would love that as well. He certainly has, he's showing those sort of qualities that you'd want to see of a 19, 20-year-old. Zachariah as well, perhaps there are elements of his short game which I think need to be sort of tidied up a little bit. He needs a bit more sharpness on the short game. There's no doubting his character and his toughness and his grittiness and all that. We saw it again against Moman, even when he was absolutely dead and buried in game 3, he somehow finds a way to fight back into the match. So that side of things, his determination and ability to make good decisions when he's hurting, there's no questions there. But he needs to add some stuff around the front of the court, I think, that is very much up the alley and the streets of the Farags and the Momans and the Gowards, all these guys, this generation that we keep talking about. But yeah, that is a good question. Then where are those other players that are perhaps further down the rankings, where you're looking at them and thinking, yeah, they're young, they're developing, their bodies are not fully sort of matured yet, but they have the skill. But to be honest, I'm not seeing it either. I'm not seeing the sort of players that sort of have a lot of X factor that are standing out, where you think these guys could be the next Gaultier, the next Darwish, the next Rummy, who you already saw at 19, 20, 21. You saw that they were coming through, you know. So hopefully we're just in a bit of a slow growth phase, we'll call it. Is it related? I've sort of asked myself, is it related to COVID, that systems got shut down for not just for the for the year, but it just had a knock-on effect which lasted 2 years. So there may be a 2-year sort of recovery period, which where the lag time is still there, and we're going through that now. Could be that. Or does it have to do with something a bit more sinister in terms of like real drop-off numbers in the game and stuff like this? That's the other concerning thing. I mean, in I can speak for Switzerland because I'll go to the Swiss Junior Champs tomorrow to watch some of my players play. We've got good numbers in the junior system playing the events, but the general numbers, that's a bit more concerning. Just the people that from the age of 18 to 35. I've seen that's a much tougher gig now. Just getting those people in, holding on to them, and getting them to join the club and stuff like that. That's just that. I'm not sure whether or not I'm sort of reaching a little bit and grasping at something that has nothing to do with it. I certainly hope not.
No, I think you bring up some great points. There was a year or two back, where I was thinking about how quickly usually the top juniors progress into the men's rankings if you look at like 10, 15 years ago compared to what it is now. And I just feel like a general consensus outside of the outliers, Zachariah and Jonah Bryant, it seems much harder for the top juniors to be able to progress through the rankings at a rapid pace. And I feel like I think one of the biggest fears is for them to kind of linger into the 40s and 50s and slowly throughout their entire careers be able to maybe push in the top 20, but you see this general explosion of rise in the rankings for these top juniors back in the day. So I think in that sense, there's some concerns. There's also, I think the COVID thing was very valid. Kind of wanted to also move on. I know you were there at the World Championships, and I know it's been a while now. It's a bit outdated, I guess, with what's been happening in the squash world.
Yeah.
Wanted to get your general...
The Farag requirement put that to bed, didn't it? It just drowned everything.
This guy, Farag, just taking all the attention away from the World Champs. How dare he? What a
It was funny. Amar Shabana, who's a fantastic guy, made a great post on Insta. You can look it up, and he said, Ali, how dare you do this without asking us? You had to ask us first for our permission. So I love that. It was quite funny.
That's funny. But yeah, just want to get your general thoughts on the World Champs. Any like key points? I know you and I were texting throughout the World Champs, whether it be the not a boss win over Amina Orfi. There was all these storylines popping through, but with also Veer challenging Ali Farag, with all these different names getting mentioned. I think in that sense, the World Champs is fantastic with all the players playing in it. But yeah, I wanted to get your thoughts on any things that stuck out to you during that tournament.
Yeah, that's a great point about someone like Via Shotrani, trained by David Palmer, having gone to Cornell. Getting back to the question we just talked about. We need the Via Shotranis to make that move, and that guy's got a ton of talent. I mean, the way he played against Farag was unbelievably impressive. Like, he was just firing them in on both sides of the court, on the volley, off the floor, a lot of variation. So players like that have that kind of flair, you can certainly see a pathway where if he works really hard, he's certainly got a great guy in terms of the hard work ethic in the guy that was known as the Marine, David Palmer, and a former world champion himself, British Open champion. So we need these type of players to just invest everything into becoming the best possible sports people they can, and then the game's going to be in a good spot. Steinman obviously had missed an opportunity. He's a guy that I've had a lot to do with. He should have beaten Shorbagy. Talking about that match, he had him 9-all. He dominated the third game for the better part. He played the fast front wall as it was. I think that was one of the things that was talked about the most. And it really, I have watching when I was not on comms, just going and watching from the side or watching behind the court. It was the quickest bloody wall I've ever seen. Like, it was unreal. Like, it was just, the ball was just flying. And even on day one on comms, like, we were looking at each other sort of saying, wow, this wall is pretty quick. Like, this is going to get interesting. And then it was like, the staff was going to be hard to beat here, and sure enough, day by day, it just sort of, the chickens came home to roost. Like, you could just feel the longer it went on and the deeper the tournament went, once he puts out Goad, pretty comfortably. And then what he did to Cole in the semis, it was like, well, yeah, I don't really know how Farag's going to beat him, in that environment. But yeah, Shabini was a very interesting one, wasn't it? Because she was very close to exiting against Weaver. She looked out of sorts as well. She battled against Farida Muhammad on the way to the semi-finals. That was the last 16 match, I think. So, she looked. I mean, we talked about all these tournaments she's played where she's been half injured, and TOC where she was running around with a back injury, getting it treated, and then somehow she wins the tournament. So you're there, and it can happen. And she's the only player that you have this faith where you think, well, if anybody can do it, she can do it. But if 8-4 for Weaver, 2-1, there's no way I thought she was coming back from there. How much of it was Olivia sort of seeing the finish line and just sort of, I don't want to say choke, but she just no, that's too strong a word. But she certainly she hit a few unforced errors, and the shots were there to be played, but the pressure rose because Shabini sort of won a couple of points and had that dogged determination sort of starting to creep back into her game, and she certainly brought enough pressure on Olivia that Olivia just squeezed herself on a couple of volleys where, if they go in, we might be talking about a Weaver versus Hania final, which probably, in my opinion, would have favoured Hania. I think that Hania would have been freer to play the style of game that she wanted. But what was unbelievably impressive was the fact that Shabini turns up to the final, and I felt like she locked Hania down on the backhand side and was trying to cut off the ball on the forehand side. She wasn't allowing Hania to bring it over. So she was chasing after volleys, just getting a racket on it to keep the play very much backhand dominated, backhand orientated, where she obviously has better holds and she has better control, So it was a masterclass of not just the storyline of her winning her 8th title, but you got to give a lot of kudos to her coach Greg Gaultier as well, because he's been in her corner now for a while, and they're a great team. And she carried out the instructions to a T. She was so disciplined about the way she went about it, and yeah, greatest female player ever, along with Heather Mackay. Let's not forget Heather Mackay of Australia, who was unbeaten for 16 years. But certainly in the modern game, in the modern era of squash, which the Women's World Championship started in the late 70s, 1979. If we talk about the last 46 years, well, Shabini's clearly, for me, she's the best. She usurps Nicole David as well because of who she's had to play in the last 7 or 8 years,
Yeah, I think it's quite fitting with the doubt that even I expressed during that preview episode of her
Yeah.
and you telling me that you don't doubt Sherbini, and here she goes. And I think that was kind of also the theme of this tournament was I was doing a young analyst over here, a young podcaster over here, doubting a lot of old guns and was humbled a bit, questioning Shorbagy, Zachariah, questioning Tarek Moment against Jonah Bryan. It was quite a humbling experience for me to see that they still got a long ways to go. And I thought that was another storyline of the transition is happening. It's slowly happening, but maybe we're jumping the gun a little with how quickly these youngsters are progressing up, especially with the status of especially Shorbagy and Momin. It was one of the storylines for me. One player that I'd be remiss not to talk about and wanted to talk about in the World Champs preview and wanted to get your thoughts on was actually Fares Suzuki. And I know he's lined up in this British Open to play Paul Cole, but I think 3-4 years back when he won the black ball, I believe, I think there were a lot of excitement with the ceiling he has, but he's kind of gotten obscure these past couple of years. I know he's dealt with injuries, but I want to get your thoughts. I think on his day, I think he's still someone who could challenge anyone, but it's a bit of a shame to see that he's kind of going under the radar now with his recent results, and I want to get your opinions on him as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's got all of the dynamic power, explosiveness, incredible. He's an ex-gymnast, as is Nada Abbas, as is Noran Gohar. We should be getting all of our potential, sort of kids to get in, to send them to gymnastics for training for 5 or 6 years before they start playing squash properly at 12. It's just unreal. I mean, what an advantage, because even if you look at Gohar, the way that she moves as well, like she's not the same stocky build as a lot of the so-called ex-gymnasts. Like an Abbas is obviously stockier, and Suzuki, he is the epitome of a stocky guy, like very, very big quads, very powerful, a lot of natural fast twitch fibers in the way he moves and the way that he connects with his hands as well. He got ridiculous hands. But yeah, the fibers upstairs, unfortunately, Sean, they count as well. And up here, it's just not happening. He doesn't have any, when things are not flowing for him and not working. And even if you like you say, if you're carrying something, you've got to be able to dig deep and just fight through it. And that has never been Fares' strength to do that. And unfortunately, at this last period, he just keeps getting found out. If he's not willing to go through some early round matches where things are going to get dragged out and you're on a back court, traditional court, as he was at Palm Hills, then, if you're not willing to dig in there for 80 minutes, the tour in the men's and the women's, it's not just the top 10, 12 guys. If you look at guys that are between 20 to 30, I mean, Steinman sort of got inside the top 20, then he drops to 22. You got a Curtis Malik hanging around 30. There's loads of players that are all very capable on their day. So if they are playing well, then it's going to take you a good hour plus to see them off. So if Fares is not, I don't know what his work rate is off, in the training side of things, but it doesn't look good. It just doesn't look like that it's there.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame to see. I think if you're a squash fan,
yeah,
watching him play is just such a joy when he's clicking. Everything's working out with the explosiveness he has, the athleticism, the hands he has. The fact that we counted him out in the World Champs, I think, is kind of quite telling, especially with the pedigree he has. But Johnny, I want to transition to the British Open. I know straight to another big event here, and I wanted to kind of start this off. Probably previewing it would take another hour or two. Don't want to take too much of your time here, but kind of wanted to
all good, mate.
But want to start off with one match I wanted to kind of talk about, and I think this is a good segue into another discussion here, was Ian Yao versus Victor Krumen on the men's side. We have it lined up for round 2, but I think it's interesting. These two are at the cusp of the top 10. Victor breaking into the top 10. Ian Yao finally making it into the top 10 with the ranking changes and everything. But we have a whole batch of players, whether it be Yusuf Solomon, Yusuf Ibrahim, Victor, Ali Abu, Ian Yao. We're all lingering in that top 10, trying to pounce on any opportunity they have. And want to get your opinion on, out of those players, are there any standout names? Obviously, they're all relatively similar in the results they've been able to produce. But if you were to pick one or two players who are outside of that top 10 or 10 to 15 realm that you think does have what it takes to kind of jump into the 7, 5, 6 ranking, who's catching your attention here?
Oh, the obvious one in the men's is Yusuf Ibrahim. Like he's already played in a platinum final back against Paul Cole in Windy City. It was, and then he had a lot of sort of niggling problems with the knee. He recently at Alguna he dived on his shoulder, which buggered his shoulder, and that's sort of slowed him up a bit. I think he lost out to Diego in the the quarters of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Possibly had a really good chance to go further there, but that definitely the shoulder injury has slowed him down. He's not able to get full power through the ball, and that's obviously that's a problem. Like he's just not able to express himself in the way that he can. But I'm hoping that he will get fully fit. And now that we're talking about, sort of connecting that to the Farag thing, Ibrahim is a guy that if he mixes a bit more steadiness with his long game, with the short game, and doesn't take too many crazy gunslinger options around the front, he's definitely a guy that can progress steadily up to top 7, top 5, without a doubt. I think Jonah is on course for tracking himself towards the top 10 and maybe faster than what people might expect, because he's physically, even in the matches this year that I've been watching, when he's losing, he looks like he's still got a fair bit to give. So he's losing not because of a lack of physicality. He's losing due to things about the game that he's still experience type things and tactical things that he still needs to learn and get right, and just add a little bit more discipline. And just learn, probably, I feel like, to some of these top guns, he's just got to shut them down for a bit longer and don't allow them to get onto the ball and do what they want to do. So Tarak's a great example. If we go to that World Champs, Tarak just had a little bit too much freedom, I felt, around the mid-court to do what he wanted to do. And I think that because Brian already had a 5-setter with him in Cleveland, so he's already shown this year that he can take him to the limit. But Jonah is going through this. Perhaps he's come up. He's 30 in the world. He's plateaued, but he's just learning for the next rise. So he's on the way towards the top, certainly the top 15, top 10, pretty quick, I would say. Zachariah as well is another one. The outlier, perhaps, for maybe sneaking a top 10 position that has sort of been talked about now and again, is Steinman. He's the other one, because Steinman is unbelievably fit. He has, I've known him since he was 12. Like, he's one of the best trainers in terms of what he does on the training track that I've ever seen. He has ridiculous genetics. Like, that guy, he's come into training, I kid you not, Sean, and he's like, he's had a flu or he's not well, and he's like, oh, we'll do a bit less today, so we'll do a couple of hours, and then he's going to do a light session in the gym. I'm like, mate, you should be resting when you're ill. He's like, well, that's like resting for him. It's like doing 2.5 hours of training when he's carrying a bit of a cold. So he's got that. It's like the Jocko. I watched a few podcasts of Jocko Billings, if you've seen those, and he's like, when I'm really ill, I'll just do like an hour of stretching. Like, when I'm really ill, I'm sweating in bed. I'm not doing anything. So some people have incredible physiologies where their systems and their chemistry just allow them to still be active, even if it's low rate, even if they're carrying some kind of illness. And that's why I think Steinman has a durability about him, that as long as he stays injury-free and sticks with Rosner, I think that he's on a good course with Rosner, who's an ex-world number 3. Stick with him, stay with that coach, and just get a bit more discipline. He could sneak his way towards the top 10 as well. Not sure about top 5, but certainly towards the top 10. Victor has been to 7. He then has sort of, without trying to be too harsh or too critical, but I feel like his repeat movement, because he obviously, it's clear for anybody that Victor is not as naturally quick as a lot of the other players at the top of the game, and that movement or that slight deficit has been exposed. So he moved to 7. Then he got found out a little bit. And now the question is, can he evolve his game? Because I don't think he's going to be able to get as explosive or as quick as some of the other guys. So he's gonna have to make up for it with his racket work. His racket work's going to have to be a little bit, have a few more sort of switches and gear changes in it to get back up there and then stay there. But he's certainly got the right mentality for it. That's for sure. The way he goes about his business.
Yeah, and the last player was, I wanted get your thoughts on Ian Yao. He's been lingering up there right now. Hasn't really been able to have that huge result in a big event yet. I think he's made some quarterfinals here and there, but we haven't really seen him progress upwards from there. But what do you think of his potential? Do you think he's perhaps capped it a little at where he's at right now, or what does he need to add in his game?
Yeah, he's sort of he strikes me as the similar mold of the guys before him. His ancestry from Malaysia in the form of Ong Beng Hee, who was in the US and now is out in China. I hear he got up to 6-7 in the world. Mohamed Islam Iskander also got to, I think he got his highest ranking up to 6. So he's like, I feel like he's in the same mold as them, that if everything goes right, he can hold that ranking. And now, especially with Farag retiring, and I'm going to call it now, I think that Tarak's knocking on the door of retirement very loudly right now. That's, again, I don't have any inside info on that. That's just me saying that. Mohamed's got one season left in him. So there's spots in front that are just naturally going to drop out, which means that if two more guys drop out, then Yao is, right now, he'd be 8. He wouldn't be 10, So there's opportunity abound for many of these players that are ranked certainly from 9 down to 20. The ones that are able to get the best out of themselves the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to find themselves in the top 10, and potentially, like you say, some are going to get to 5 or 6.
Has your opinion on, maybe I'm wrong on this, but from this conversation alone, I feel like your opinion might have changed on Zachariah and Bryant, of their how it seems like you're favoring Jonah Bryant's trajectory a bit more than Zachariah since that preview episode we did a couple weeks back. Maybe I'm wrong on this, but I'm trying to pick up on the way you're describing these players. But has your opinion changed on anything? Has anything kind of made you think differently since the World Championships between these two guys?
I think that Bryant has just got a little bit more natural flair around the front of the court from what I've seen the last while. Just watching squash, he came to Zurich. I commentated in Zurich. I commentated on his match against Tarek Momin, and he was flying around the court even against Momin. But I just felt that he left the mid court too open. I felt like if he actually had to shut it down a bit more, that he might, with a bit more patience, played the long game a little bit. Tried to extend it out a little bit. It would have been tough, obviously, and it wouldn't have guaranteed that he would have won, but I felt like he would have increased his chances. And then towards the end of a long first game, a long second game, and then going into, third game, and then I'll say we're at the 40, 45-minute mark, he may have been in a situation where he might have been able to come into his own, and express that firepower around the front. But he's just got to find that balance with the way that he attacks the back of the court to set himself up. Zachariah is attacking the back of the court really well, and he can get himself out of, defensively, he can get himself out of all sorts of positions. But I feel like when he gets positions around the front, it doesn't have the same sharpness and bite that Bryant has, and it doesn't have the same switches that he has. So that's the thing that Zachariah's working with Jonathan Power, as we know, because he's got that set up with Aspire Academy. So that's clearly behind that choice. He knows it himself probably that he wants to get a bit of that power short game into his repertoire. Let's see how it goes. But
better person for adding that type of flair to your game than JP.
Yeah, look, if it can rub off, then great. That's going to be the big question: is can he transmit that kind of stuff to a guy that is obviously not perhaps naturally inclined to play like that or built like he hasn't based his game on that, his whole career. It's been much more an attritional counter-punching style. So he has to start now to do that. Whereas I feel like Bryant, you're correct. I just feel like Bryant's a little further ahead with that in the way that he's been trained by his coach, and what he can do is it's just a lack of experience that's let him down in certain matches. So I feel like Bryant could have a big event, He could have a big event and go semis somewhere, early in the first part of next season.
Yeah, just maybe not this British Open with the draw he's been handed. We got him.
No. No, that's as tough as it gets. But I saw his post today. He was giving it like,
Yeah,
I know what I'm facing, but I'm not going in there to show him maximum respect. I'm going to show him my game, and that's more players on the up who are trying to push through. They should give it that. They should talk. They should send it out there. Why not? And put the pressure on himself so that he has to bring that. So but I'm a big. I do enjoy watching Jonah play. Like I feel that he's got some serious artillery in his game that is yet to be unearthed fully.
Yeah. I mean, so it's Farag's retirement, but a lot to look forward to. And wanted to lastly touch on the women's draw. I know a lot has happened. I think it's funny how one big name being dropped off in the women's, which is Hania, can really suck the juice out of a draw. And I just, it's not as entertaining with her not being in the mix. But I just wanted to mention to you, there's one bracket area in the top half that I think is the death zone. And I'm going to just give you the names. We got Satomi Watanabe versus Melissa Alves. Right underneath, we have Siva versus Anat. And then we have Tori Malik, Nada Abbas, and Amina being the fourth seed, being Amina Orfi versus Georgia Adderley. It's the bracket of opportunity. Like, anyone can make it into the semis there. I think it's interesting. There were a couple storylines I wanted to talk to you about. Do you think Amina Orfi, there's been some vulnerability being found in these past two events? She's lost to Nada Abbas. I've always rated Nada Abbas's game very highly. I think she's got such a clean swing to her. And Satomi, I think her ceiling is still yet to be found. And I think she's working her way towards it, with her movement being better every event and every season. But yeah, just want to get your thoughts on those names, that opportunity they have in that area of the draw. Because outside of that, I think it's just going to be a quick slide through Noor Gohar and Noor El Sharbini there.
Yeah, the German autobahn, as Gregory Gaultier used to describe it when he was when he was established. He apparently would talk to some of the other guys and sort of look at the draw, and he'd say, "Well, I've got an autobahn straight through to the semis." So that's what that's the kind of confidence that you need to have to be one of those elite bracket players. But yeah, Gohar, like you say, we can just slot her straight through to semis, obviously, really. Sharbini, I have it on good word from Gaultier, by the way, that there was good work that went in before the World. So it was just a couple of other hiccups, which I won't go into. But she should be very, very keen to back up her World Champ win, and no doubt she'll be looking to atone because she lost to Gohar last year in the British, of course, after losing in the World. So she had that back-to-back majors losses last year. So she'll be looking to rectify that. But those two, obviously, for me, they're favourites to meet again and continue with their rivalry. But the story, I love the way Nada Abbas is playing. She's brilliant to watch because she's got, on the backhand side, her short game is razor sharp. She just cuts it in. But for someone who's 5'4", she has got an enormous punch to her game, and the way that she can get into the shots and bring that footwork power. She's just so quick on her feet and so explosive as well. So backhand side is unbelievable. The forehand side is also really, it's got some dynamic sort of touches to it. She slides the post in really well. If she gets good position on the drop, she's good as well. But she could certainly trouble Orfi again. She will be going in after beating Orfi from 2-love down at the Worlds. And yeah, that's a big match to watch, that last 16 battle between them, without a doubt, because it also gets quite fiery. And the thing about Abbas is she doesn't take a backward step, which I love as well. She's she's in Orfi's face if she has to be. Orfi, obviously, ridiculously hard competitor, hard-nosed and all that for a 17-year-old. But I don't know if you watch Palm Hills, but one of the things that came up with Parky on comms was her short game. We felt like the swing patterns are just a little bit too long. So she's getting the short game. She doesn't have those adjustments and those changes there to shorten the swing when she needs to use the strings to leave the ball shorter. And when you talk about someone like Abbas, who does that to perfection, that's where Abbas was able to get in front of her and turn that match around. She was getting in front on that backhand side. Her quality going in was better, and she had the speed to back it up as well. You know, if because Orphe's obviously she's a steam train. She's never going to stop trying. She's never going to stop running. But there is only so much you can do when someone starts to outplay you with the way that they can get on the short line and from short to the advanced front part of the court. They just have too many subtle, deceptive changes that you can't handle in the end, you know. And Orphe, there needs to be some coaching going in there. I'm hearing that she works with her dad. Her dad is obviously in her corner, and we know all about that. He's pretty fierce for a father in the corner of a 17-year-old, but he doesn't have a squash background. So I feel she needs to have some really high-level technical input, like a Kareem Darwish as an example. You know, like that's for me, looking from the outside, I feel like that's missing, and that would be the next step for her is to get onto that. Having said that, she could still, you know, she's still good enough to grind her way through. But then even if she beats Abbas, then we're talking about another Orphe versus Satomi match. Satomi is like, she's just like silk gliding around the court. Like it's just such pure ball striking, you know, in all aspects of it. Where she got hurt was the speed and the intensity of Gohar, which is like we talk about the big three, and even a Weaver as well. The Weaver has that ability to bring that kind of intensity. She gets hurt if she's not initiating the attacks, and the other one gets in first and plays a good quality and has the ability to cover it and do a second shot to really twist and turn her. That's where she got found out a little bit at that very high level. You know, she doesn't have the repeat strength movements that Gohar, Hania, even Orphe has it, but she was able to outplay Orphe with her skills. You know.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
did I miss anybody?
I think the only person maybe we want to touch upon for the last is Siva. Siva, I mean, you predicted correctly.
Yeah, Siva. Yeah, no, yeah. Siva's a danger. So Siva plays Satomi potentially in the 16. So that's not a gimme at all. That is, Siva is the real deal. She's got the great partnership going on now with Gaultier and Palmer. Amazing understanding there especially from Palmer's side. I find like that he has that ability to sort of like put his ego to the side, step back, and sort of say, we need another input. We need to you know, push your game along to the next level. If she gets in, like Satomi doesn't want to have a shootout with Siva. That's not a good idea, because she's capable of equalising and outgunning Satomi in the front left, and Satomi, that is her preferred area to attack. She's very nice, like really good holds and good shots going on the forehand as well. But her preferred area is on the backhand. But that's where Siva's so strong as well. So that's certainly a match you want to mark down and put your alarm on and make sure you don't miss it. Put that one in the diary for sure.
It'll be on Tuesday, everyone, for those listening. And let's pray that I'm able to edit and bring this all out before Tuesday, so everything's on schedule.
What I find really interesting is the dropouts. By the way, you've got Nicole Bunyan playing Sarah Engium in the round of 32. So one of those players is going to the last 16 and going to collect 465 points. That is a huge score for two players that are ranked 50, 52, 54, around about there. So it's not just the big guns that dropped out. We had a series of other players for various reasons that have had to pull out due to injury, and that is opened the door for one of those two players to go to the top 16. And there's a few other sort of spots in the draw where, for the level of tournament, it's a soft entry to the last 16 for somebody, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this just should not be called the British Open. It's like the tournament of opportunity here, with especially
the tournament. The TOO, tournament of opportunity.
TOO, everyone. There you have it. But I'm going to ask the final question before I close this episode out, Johnny. Predictions on winners for both the men's and women's before we close it out here.
Yeah, Asal you can't go past winning form. Diego just hasn't shown enough in his training, in the way that he's performed, and there is that evidence that he did have something wrong, which sort of put him out for, let's say, 6 weeks earlier in the year. So it's just, you can't catch that up. You know, he hopefully he'll get a good summer in, and he'll be firing next season and bring that match up with Asal back to a better equilibrium. But It doesn't mean he won't make the final, because he still has that ability to beat Cole in a semi-final. But Joel is obviously back from injury. He's one to watch. He'll be determined to give everything if he's got to get through that semi-final stage. But that could be an absolute firecracker of a match. That's what I'll say on all levels.
From what I know,
who knows? Who knows? And I can't. I'm going to go Gohar because she's the perennial machine Terminator that just I don't think anybody detests losing more than her. So the only motivation she needs is that she didn't win the world. So that'll be enough just to fire her up and get her going. And I think that I was super impressed with the way that she beat Satomi in that final at Palm Hills. I mean, she just battered her with pace. Her short game was really clean and tidy. She was going, getting on the ball and taking that away from Satomi. So that form, I feel that edges for me that she will beat, I think, Shabini in the final.
Well, there you have it. I'm going to go with a very controversial take.
What about you? What about you, mate? I want to hear yours.
If I hit these random names, then my credibility goes up. I'm going to go with Joel Macon winning the whole tournament and Amina Orfi winning the whole tournament.
That's huge.
Here. I honestly think Joel Macon, if he can just pass the assault test, I think there's going to be a huge confidence boost. I'm assuming he's recovered and he's a lot more fresh than the other guys. So this is a huge.
He played last night on the Super League, so he was flying around the court. There's no issue there.
So that's what I'm gunning for. And I would think with Amina Orfi, she's essentially being able to solve everyone, even though she's had these upsets here and there with losing to other players. If she's able to beat Gohar, I think she has a good chance of having that hunger, and this could be the breakout of the year for her to end the season, and then putting next season in a very exciting spot if she's able to win this. So I'm going to go with the controversial.
Wow, that's huge.
Ends the episode when you say your predictions, and then I'll start circulating that clip of me guessing everything correct.
No way. No, it's fantastic, mate. Love it.
All right, thanks, Johnny. I appreciate it again jumping on.
Thanks, mate. Anytime. Let's crack into it in the new season. But once we get I'll try and get some research going in the summer and find out what everybody's been up to, and then we'll do something heading into the new season.
Inside source. You're my inside source, Johnny.